Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. I've said it before, but Super Metroid is one of my favourite games of all time, and coupled with Castlevania, it helped create a new genre entirely, the Metroidvania. For those who don't know, Metroidvania games typically refer to 2D ones, though not always, and they tend to have a large open world and you start out with little to no abilities. Then as you progress through the game, you get new abilities or items that let you reach areas of the map that you couldn't get to before. They're all about exploration and usually a fair bit of combat, and it's no surprise that it's a genre that I love. So with that in mind, here are 7 of the bastards that I think everyone should play. So how about I shut up and we take a look at some games. First up is Axiom Verge, being played here on my Steam Deck. You play as Trace, a scientist who wakes up in an alien world after a lab accident. He doesn't know what the hell is going on, but soon discovers that he's been transported to a strange technologically advanced realm called Sudra. It soon becomes clear that Sudra is under the control of an ancient and malevolent AI. Trace must then navigate the alien environment to uncover the secrets behind his accident, his own role in the events that are happening, and the oppressive force controlling the world. As with most Metroidvania games, the story is definitely a part of the game, but there is a big focus on the fact that you are all alone. But it is an engaging one for those who enjoy cryptic stories and environmental storytelling. The game relies heavily on exploration of the world, as you'd expect, revealing bits and pieces of the plot throughout the dialogue and NPCs that you meet, as well as finding weird terminals and data logs hidden all over the place. The atmosphere is actually really great, and despite the retro style graphics, is actually quite eerie at times thanks to the really cool environments and enemies. The gameplay here is pretty much what you'd expect from a Metroidvania game, though not in a bad way at all. You've got a pretty large world that offers non-linear exploration, power-ups and interconnected world design. It's not the largest map out there, but it can be tricky to get around, and you'll almost certainly get lost quite a lot. I got stuck quite a few times, even quite early on, while looking for the items that I needed. The world is packed with enemies here. You get a mix of robotic, mutated and organic creatures, all fitting into the game's bleak high-tech world. Many of them require a tactical approach though, with weaknesses that need to be exploited with the various weapons and abilities that you get. Some enemies even phase between dimensions, forcing you to use the Address Disruptor. And what is the Address Disruptor, I hear you cry? It's a funky tool that you'll find early on that allows you to manipulate the environment and hack into objects and enemies, opening up new paths or disabling traps. The game also introduces the concept of alternate dimensions, which lets you phase between the normal and glitched versions of the world. This can make the puzzle solving kind of tricky and is actually very well done. You also get a load of weapons to use with distinct abilities. For instance, the burst weapon fires multiple projectiles at once, and then you get one that's basically a dagger that can strike enemies at close range. You also get a little spider bot thing, which is great for getting into small areas and kind of replaces the Metroid version of the Morph Ball. The combat here is fast paced but challenging. Enemies aren't excessively numerous here, but the game does an excellent job of throwing tough opponents at you. Boss fights are really fun, and you'll definitely need to learn their patterns. Exploring the world is also very fun, and it can be sometimes annoying when you can't see where you need to go and you can end up literally just visiting every area of the map over and over again until you find a hidden passage or something, but the game does do a good job of giving you new weapons, items and abilities at a good pace, so finding the ability to phase through walls or jump twice as high usually comes just at the right time. It all looks decent as well. Of course it goes for the retro look. The pixel art is really excellent, especially for the larger enemies. I did think that some of the bad guys were a little boring, but really not a lot to complain about. The animation is also super smooth. Overall, this is just a great game. It's got its influences pretty obviously out there, but it's clearly a celebration rather than a rip-off, and more importantly, it does more than enough of its own to make it stand out. Next up is Guacamelle Super Turbo Championship Edition, shown here on my PS5. This is a really colourful entry into the genre where you play as Juan, a humble Mexican farmer. You're on your way to the Festival of the Dead and to meet your childhood friend, who also happens to be the Presidente's daughter. But wouldn't you know it, she is captured by evil skeletons and you're murdered right there and then. But as it's the Festival of the Dead, you end up in the Land of the Dead, where you find a mask that turns you into a superhero that can go between the worlds of the living and the dead, and lets you use a whole load of cool luchadore attacks that will help you explore both worlds, fight off the army of skeletons, get back the Presidente's daughter, and then you can enjoy some tacos, probably. You start off in a town where you can explore and talk to the folks, some of which actually give you missions and tasks to do, usually for a helpful item or to increase your health, and then you're off into the open world to explore. Of course, as you start, there's very few areas available to you. There will be ledges too high to reach, large blocks that you can't destroy yet, and strange looking things in the scenery that you can't interact with, yet. So as you play, you'll be hunting every nook and cranny for the new abilities to help you out. These range from wall jumps to special attacks that break certain colour blocks. There's blocks all over the world that come in a few different colours, and you won't get anywhere if you don't learn how to break them. And really, the attacking and platform is the main focus here. There's plenty of secrets for you to find, but this is definitely just as much of a brawler as it is an exploration game. Juan has some cool combos that he can do to fight the dozens of enemy types. You can punch and kick, and after doing a certain amount of damage on an enemy, you get a prompt above your head to press triangle to grab them, at which point you can do a few throw moves that are devastating. These can be used to launch enemies into each other as well, to cause massive damage. Killing enemies gets you money, which you can use to buy upgrades for your health, special move counter, and so on. You can also upgrade your strength of your throws, and it really does make a noticeable difference. I recommend fighting every enemy you see, and finding as many hidden chests as you can. Speaking of enemies, they're pretty great actually. You get a variety of skeletons to destroy, as well as crazy monsters and animals that come in all shapes and sizes, and of course you get some massive bosses too. Now, this game definitely has fewer abilities than most Metroidvanias, but makes great use of all the ones that you do get, and the combat here is really well done, so you'll want to fight everyone you see anyway. The boss fights in particular are really cool and fun to learn. As mentioned, you can go through portals, which switch you between the land of the dead and the land of the living. When you do, the world changes slightly, with platforms appearing in one world but not another, and some enemies only appear in certain realms. You'll know this though, as you can still see them in the other realm. They'll just be invincible and a black silhouette, so be careful as they can still hurt you. The dimension swapping lends itself really well to some puzzle platforming, which is another big focus on the game. You'll need to time your jumps perfectly to go through the portals and land on certain platforms, and a lot of the time you get single screen puzzle platforming sections, which take a lot of trial and error to figure out. Thankfully you don't take full damage or anything like that, so they're more fun than frustrating. As you play, you'll also unlock new characters to play as if you meet certain criteria. This is entirely optional and basically just a skin change, and the characters do play the same, though they do have slightly different animations for their attacks. It is a nice touch, and what's even better is that you can play this game in 4-player co-op. I haven't tried this, but I can imagine it being loads of fun. Graphically, the game looks absolutely brilliant. I love the art style here, it's really distinct, and the characters and enemies all just look great. The world is also nice and varied, and you'll get to visit temples, jungles, deserts, caves, the usual video game fare, but they are all distinct and just nice and bright to look at. The game's also got really great music. It's got a Mexican theme and it just works so well. All the songs are really well done and add a lot to the enjoyment here. It's not too long a game either. You can beat it in about 6 hours, and I'd say that that's a bit on the easy side, but I still really like this game, and going back to play it for this video, it made me want to pick up the sequel. If you've never played a Metroidvania game before, or just like good games, then this one is a great one to check out. Here is Cookie Cutter, also on my Steam Deck. You play as Ruby, a robo-woman with giant knockers who was made by a scientist that escaped an evil empire who forced her to build robots for world domination. She created Ruby and then fell in love with her, obviously, and the evil Garbozan Empire then tracked down the scientist and kidnapping her, leaving Ruby for dead. But Ruby survived and is now on a revenge mission to rescue her beloved and to take down the Garbonzo Empire. So you go off on your open-ended mission. You need to explore your dystopian world that consists of strange cities, underground sewer systems, laboratories, caves, and so on. They're nothing groundbreaking, but they fit the aesthetic of the game perfectly. To start with, you can run and jump and attack. But yep, you soon learn to double jump, wall jump, and a whole load of other things to get around the world, including dashing and being able to bend the elements slightly with your robot powers. All of this is essential to getting around, as the world here can be kind of confusing, but you move quickly and the controls here are damn near spot on, though not quite, and I'll get to that in a bit. You also have a load of combos that you can do, and there's a lot of combat here, and the combat can be damn tough. You'll find an army of robots, with areas often sealing shut until you've fought your way through dozens of bad guys. You have an infinite combo that you can do by hammering the attack button, but it doesn't mean it's easy. You can also do air juggles, which are actually really good fun. As you play, you get a selection of weapons as well. You get a big robo fist, a laser blast, a chainsaw, a guitar, and so on. These all do massive damage, but will use your energy, so you've got to be used sparingly. Attacking enemies gets you energy back though, so you're never too long without it. You can also do finishers on most enemies. These look awesome and are often very gory. There's a lot of blood and guts in the game, believe it or not. My main issue with the combat though are the parries. You can parry most attacks, but the window for doing this is crazy small, so I could never really do it, and I very quickly just stopped bothering, and instead I just got used to dashing out of the way. Now, to be fair, the game actually does make a point of telling you that it's hard to do and that you don't have to do it, but surely they could have just made it a little better to do instead and people would have liked it. Oh well, it doesn't really affect anything and you don't need to use it, and I guess it just means that people that are good at it can have some bragging rights. Not that anyone would really care. Either way, the combat is still tough. Enemies do massive damage to you, and there's often 3 or 4 of them at a time. It can feel a bit overwhelming at first, but once you get used to it, the combat is actually really fun and rewarding, apart from the parrying. Just make sure to use the save points as often as you can. You can use the money and items enemies drop to buy and create upgrades. This is basically for more health and energy, and you're going to want a lot of that. You also get to meet NPCs who give you optional quests for more items and weapons, which is cool. Graphics wise, it looks amazing. It's got an awesome cartoon style that's super stylized and clean, and I really like it. The animation is just incredible on just about everything, and the finishing moves in particular are pretty great, though sometimes there is so much going on and it all happens so fast that I didn't see what happens. Yet again, this is another awesome game that really puts up a fight. Don't be fooled by the cartoony graphics, this game is tough, and definitely not for younger audiences, with its violence, copious amounts of swearing. Oh, and your radio buddy here isn't a radio buddy, it's your talking vagina. And no, I'm not joking. Though don't get excited, creeps, there's no nudity or anything here, just suggestive themes, usually played for laughs. This one is called 9 Years of Shadows, once again being shown on the Steam Deck. You play as Europa, the princess of a land that's had all of the colour drained from it. You set out on a journey to right this wrong and get colour back to your world. At the start of your journey, you meet a little spirit bear who offers to help you. You're not sure why or exactly who this little bear dude is, but he seems to have healing powers, so you agree to take him along for your quest. From here, you're out to Metroidvania your way around a pretty large open world where you'll need to learn new abilities in order to reach certain areas, which I understand is a bit of a redundant thing to say in a video about games where that's literally the whole point of all of them, but hey, I've got to pad it out a bit. Anyway, the world here is a really cool one. You'll explore lush forests, underwater caverns, fiery volcanoes, and more. Each of the worlds is populated by a number of different enemies, though none are too much of a problem to fight. There are various demon-looking things, as well as what I assume are the local wildlife that all want to kill you. Thankfully, you're pretty handy with your axe and can do a few combos, as well as attack up, though annoyingly you can't attack downwards, which I do think would have been really handy in some places. You can't even do it while you're jumping. Killing enemies will drop currency, which you can spend on buying various armor, health and magic upgrades as long as you've got the required items. As you explore the world, you'll find a number of NPCs who will also give you quests. These are optional, but honestly you'll end up doing them even by accident as you explore. Most of these involve killing certain mini-bosses or finding an item somewhere and bringing it back to them. What's cool is that all the people that you meet are part of an orchestra, and the more you find, the more music you get in the game, and this in turn starts bringing back some of the colour. It looks and sounds great and is a really cool mechanic here. As it's a Metroidvania, you'll come across plenty of areas that you can't get to at the start. But yes, fighting bosses and exploring will reward you with the new suits of armour that give you new abilities, or sometimes your little teddy bear bloke will get the new abilities. He can heal you as well as being able to fire energy blasts that destroy shadow, which in the game are represented by crystals. The mechanic I quite like here is that your health and magic are just one bar. It kind of acts as a shield as well. Basically, when the blue bar is depleted by either taking damage or using up all your magic, then you've got a few red diamonds, and these diamonds represent how many hits you can take. To replenish your magic and health, or whatever you want to call it, you can either hug the bear thing, which is kinda cute, or you can hit enemies. Sometimes one is safer to do than the other, and you've got to be a little bit tactical with what you choose, as you'll need to wait for animations to finish. The different armour here have different elements. One is water, so does water damage and lets you turn into a mermaid for underwater sections. One is a fire one that does fire damage and lets you run through fire and use the heat as an updraft. And there's even a green one that's grass, which lets you squeeze through tiny tunnels. Enemies are also colour coded. They can all be hurt with any weapon, but some have a colour outline, and using that same colour armour does bonus damage, so pay attention, and you'll be able to smash armour and do massive damage. The graphics here are great with some excellent pixel art. The world and enemies, and especially the bosses, all look excellent as well, though I will say that the enemy variety isn't all that great. Most areas just have colour swaps of the ones that you see everywhere else, though there are a couple of new ones in each area. This isn't a particularly difficult game either. I was able to finish it in about 6 or 7 hours with a 94% completion without even really trying, but honestly that's perfect for me. It certainly kept me interested and the whimsical story here is actually very enjoyable. It doesn't do a huge amount to innovate, but it's still a very solid entry into the genre and one that I do recommend to most players. Right, now it's time to dust off the Xbox 360. It's been a while, my old friend. Here is Shadow Complex. You play as Jason, who is voiced by Nathan Drake. You and your girlfriend go to explore some caves that she used to explore when she was a kid. She goes on ahead and then you start to follow, but she's nowhere to be found. Turns out an evil organisation has taken over the complex and has taken her hostage as they think she's a spy. Being the good boyfriend you are, you set out to rescue her, and you might as well kill as many people along the way as you can. The eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that this game is made up of 3D polygons, but the game is still played in a 2D perspective for the most part. I believe there's some who call this 2.5D. Either way, you move left, right, up and down as you explore the huge complex of caves. As you're basically exploring a large underground base, you don't visit a ton of exotic locations, but you really don't notice that while you're playing. Jason is pretty nimble, being able to run fast and jump higher than any real human can, but that's alright as it makes exploring the base really damn fun. You can grab onto ledges and do various bits of climbing to begin with, but then as the game progresses you start to get bits of a super suit thing that the bad guys are working on. You slowly piece the suit together and over the course of the game to basically become a superhero. The suit lets you do double jumps, super dashes, swimming forever and so on, and the game does a fantastic job of pacing this out so you get things at just the right time. Unlike almost every other game here, you use guns to fight. Aiming is easy with the right analog stick, and what's nice is that the game is smart enough to know if you're aiming at someone in the background, and it's easy to target the enemies that you want. There's also gun turret sections, and this is where the game does change to a first-person perspective. This is a cool thing to break things up every now and then. There's not a massive variety of enemies though. You get mostly soldiers, but they come in a few flavours, with regular ones, some with shields, some with stronger weapons, etc. But there's also a selection of robots and mechs that you'll need to fight as well, often needing to use more powerful weapons and grenades where you can. You can only carry one weapon at a time, and this is replaced at various points in the game. You start with a pistol, which is of course kinda weak, but then you'll eventually find a variety of machine guns, and later on a really strong laser shotgun thing. You can visit an armory and change to a different one of the weapons that you've already found if you want, but as they get stronger each time, there's really no need to do this. Exploring the map is great. As always, you need to get new abilities to get to the new areas, and what I like is that by shining your torch on things, they glow a certain colour, letting you know what item you need to get past them. The map also shows you where secrets are located, indicated by a question mark, but they're not always easy to find. And you're often teased with seeing the item but not being able to get to it. Often you'll have to come back a fair bit later to grab it, but it is worth it as there's health, grenade and keycard pickups everywhere that will really help you out. It all looks decent enough, especially for the release time. The environments are a bit samey, but back in these Xbox 360 days there was a size limit for downloadable games, so I'd imagine it was all to fit in with that size limit. There is also quite a bit of slowdown as well. It's never enough to ruin anything, but it is a bit of a shame. But still, this is an absolutely fantastic game, and I'd probably say one of my favourites on the entire system. It has a remaster that's available on Steam, and I highly recommend this game to everyone. It's an absolute blast from start to finish, and it's even one of the few games that I bothered to get all of the achievements for. Go me. Blasphemous, shown here on the PS5, is a religion-themed Metroidvania, and sorry Keith from the Main Quest podcast, but I'm going to be that guy. It also seems to have taken a lot of inspiration from the Dark Souls games, but then again it might not, I might have just made that up. You are the Penitent One, the survivor of a brotherhood who wears a strange mask covered in barbed wire. All sorts of weird religious things are happening that involve people punishing themselves, and you basically set out on a pilgrimage to find a bunch of religious relics. Of course, as with all good religions, this also means you need to kill a lot of people in stupidly violent ways. I'll be honest, I never really understood the story here, as it is all told in a very deliberately vague way, and I don't understand religion at the best of times. But that will not stop you from enjoying the amazing cutscenes that this game has, and the tough, visceral gameplay that you've got here. Wow, I almost sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't, by the way. You explore a pretty large map, including various towns, forests, sewers, citadels, temples, and so on, each of which has a whole load of imagery that I'm too stupid to understand, but they all look fantastic with some great pixel art and a ton of detail everywhere. There's enemies all over the place, and they're really great to see and to fight, but not easy. You've got various clergy-looking people, slave masters, winged beasts, people with shields, giants with babies riding them, and more. Again, the imagery is really cool, and I'd actually like to know what all of them mean. To attack, you have a sword. You can do a few combos with it, and with more being available to you as you play. But be careful, as even these simple enemies can kill you easily, especially at the start of the game. You also learn a bit of magic, which comes in very handy. You've got a parry move which is essential, and you want to time it just right so you parry well. Enemies all have a tell for when you can parry their moves, and you'll want to learn these every time you meet a new bad guy. I actually do recommend learning the enemies one by one as you meet them. They each have different timing, though it is very fair. It's not easy, but it's fair. Parrying lets you then do a devastating counterattack, which is nice. Sometimes enemies will be stunned and flash red. If they do, get close and press triangle, and you'll do a gruesome finisher on them that usually results in lots of blood. There's no bonus for doing this, it's just cool. Killing enemies gets you currency. I'm not sure exactly what type of currency it is, it's kind of like souls. But you use this at certain shrines to buy new items, abilities, and to upgrade your attack, defense, and health. And here's the Dark Souls bit. If you die, you go back to the most recent shrine that you visited, which, by the way, are not generously distributed, so be prepared to play through sections of the game quite often. You'll also lose all of your souls, or whatever it is you're collecting, and you'll need to try to get back to where you died and collect everything that you lost. Also, every time you die, a portion of your magic bar is blocked off. Your magic attacks are very powerful and handy, so you want to get as much of this as you can. You need to either make it to your lost spoils without dying again to get that portion of your bar back, or you can go to the nearest prayer room to repent. These are few and far between though. I did find some of this game quite frustrating thanks to an overall lack of direction, which is kind of the point in Metroidvania games. And it's also because the combat is very hard, but deliberately so, and I would get sent back sometimes 10 minutes or so worth of progress. Doing these same bits over and over can be a bit soul destroying, but also that kind of fits in with the theme of the game. It didn't stop me from playing though. The amazing graphics and the smooth combat and control were enough to keep me going, and the boss fights in particular are great. They're very hard, but they're great. Though I was surprised at how quickly I did beat the final boss. I guess I'd probably honed my skills by then. Either way, this is another great game. It's only one that I'd recommend to people that like a challenge though. If you get easily frustrated by games, this one might not be for you. And finally for today, here is Hollow Knight, being shown on my PS5. This is another great Metroidvania that has a strange, vague story. They really like doing whimsical, vague, melancholy stories in these games, don't they? Anyway, you control a nameless warrior that's very bug-like. You're in a strange town that's full of bug-like creatures. You learn that Hollowmouth, the sprawling city that's below you, used to be a thriving kingdom of insects, which became overrun by an infection that controls people's minds, and thus made everyone kinda hollow and violent. It seems that you and a handful of others managed to avoid being infected, and you, being the good knight that you are, set off to kill 3 dreamers, who are basically the big bosses, so you can bring the land back to its sexy self once again. So yes, you set out to do a lot of exploring with very little direction, until you find the items and abilities that you need to reach the areas that you couldn't get to before. You've got a sword as a weapon called Nail in the game. You have a basic combo that you'll need to get used to, as the combat here is very challenging. Don't be fooled by the cute graphics, the bugs here will kick the shit out of you. It's all about learning their patterns and dashing at the right time to avoid taking damage, then dashing back in to get a few hits on them. Even regular enemies can be tough when there's a few of them, but the bosses especially are really hard, but they're fun to fight and they'll keep you wanting to come back. And some of them even have a hidden exploit every now and then, so be sure to keep an eye on the environment around them and their movement for subtle clues. You also get a few magic attacks like a projectile, but this has limited uses, so be careful and use it sparingly. As you explore, you'll meet a handful of other characters who have also avoided the infection. They tend to help you out by returning to the town that's above and opening shops. Here you can buy things like maps or markers for your maps that highlight areas of interest or where save points are, etc. And then there's the item shop, where things cost a lot of money, but are really worth saving up for. So you can get things like a money magnet or a key that opens a hidden door, that sort of thing. I actually recommend spending the early part of the game doing a lot of grinding and buying everything in the shops as early as you can. It will actually help you quite a lot. There's also a badge mechanic, where you can wear badges that give you perks, like faster healing, collecting more souls or money from enemies and that sort of thing. But you can only equip a certain number of badges at a time, so you'll often need to swap these out in the different areas of the map to maximise their usefulness. I've mentioned that this game is tough, and you know what? It's true. And this is another game that if you die, you want to get back to where you were killed. There you'll find your ghost, and if you manage to kill your ghost, you'll get back all the money and souls that you lost when you died. Thankfully, you don't lose everything, but it's still worth going back to get your stuff. You'll need it. The game looks fantastic with a really cool cartoon style, looking like everything's been hand-drawn. I love the animation and designs of everything, and it just looks like a cartoon, but with considerably more beetle blood. The blue hue on everything also gives the game a really cool style, and it just instantly is recognisable. Couple that with some super smooth control and the harsh but fair difficulty, and you've got a game that's really something special. Again, it's not really one for people that are easily frustrated or can give up if they find things too hard. It's also a pretty long game, taking me about 25 hours to beat, but for everyone else, this is absolutely a must play. So there you go, every Metroidvania game that's ever been made. I love this genre, and I actually have a load more of these games, so I can easily make more videos on this topic. But as always, let me know in the comments below which other ones I should include. On screen now you can see where else you can follow me, so why not do so? I've got loads of cool content for everyone to enjoy. And now, all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.